So, but then you found yourself in this cycle of drinking and alcoholism, self-medicating. And one thing you seems like you did in the early days, you would just push down the
Mhm.
feelings, push down the shame, the anger, whatever it was, and just kind of stuff it down, cover it up. And that's where you found yourself in this cycle of drinking, promising to quit, trying to forget.
Yeah.
How did you go get past that cycle?
I think that started with disclosing to a therapist that I was drinking a lot and also disclosing that I had some childhood trauma. And as I knew would happen, as soon as I told this therapist that I had been abused in foster care, she picked up the phone and called the police immediately. And the police told her that I had to go to my hometown to report. And so I drove up from San Diego to Oxnard, walked into the police station and said to a cop standing in the hallway, I need to make a police report. The cop just, I was 21 years old, 20 or 21. He looks at me and he goes, well, about what? What's going on? I said, well, I got molested in foster care. And he said, well, by who? And I said, well, my foster mom. And he's like, what'd she look like? And the other guy standing next to him is like, why are you waiting until now to tell us? And I didn't have answers. That was the first time I had ever gone and like reported that to authorities. And they asked me her name and where she lived. And one of the guys wanted to know if she was good looking. And I drove back home and nothing ever happened. I never heard back from the police. There was never an arrest. And I think that was not very helpful.
Mhm.
um, and I had the message to me was it doesn't matter. That part of your story doesn't matter, but you are drinking quite a bit. So let's deal with drinking.
Mm.
And I got in a little bit of trouble and punched a police officer in the face while drinking and talking to that therapist about it. She wanted to know how much I drank and gave me like this assessment. And I said I lost track after 30 drinks in a night. And I went to an inpatient rehab center. And I didn't want to deal with and address what happened to me because I didn't think it mattered. I didn't think I mattered in that way. And I kind of put it in a place where maybe it just didn't happen. Maybe whatever. It was foggy. And it wasn't till much later after the war in Iraq that I had some good therapists who were able to pull back those layers and help me see where I am responsible for my life, even though the programming's not my fault. And I have choices that I can make to change my behaviors so that I'm no longer living in poverty, addiction, chaos, and violence. And so that I can have good relationships and so that I can find peace and joy in life. But that took some time. So I started with the drinking part and I was in and out of sobriety or recovery for a couple of years. And on November 4th of 2000, I got completely sober for the last time. That was a pivotal time in my life because I think that elimination of anesthesia is ground zero for progress for somebody who's an alcoholic or an addict who has had trauma like that. And people will ask, well, why would people want to talk about that? Why do people even want to acknowledge? So for the first 8 years of life, that's our programming. Like our hard drive is programmed during that time. So I can forget about what happened all I want, but the training is there. So I'm trained to not value myself. I'm trained to not trust people. I'm trained to be afraid. I'm trained to live in shame. And something as simple as saying, I feel ashamed right now because I'm afraid that you don't like me to somebody who's a rad person can alleviate it. Just exposure. Shame's like mold. It just goes away once it comes out.